Hello, Next Frontier Conference. It's a huge privilege and an honor to be speaking with all of you today. I'm excited to share with you all a bit about myself, my journey, my life, and my career in the awesome fields that I've had the opportunity to work in. So my name is Darian Dixon. I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And in my brief career, I've been many things: scientist, engineer, educator, programmer, but largely, I've liked to call myself an explorer of Mars because my official titles just haven't quite captured the magic of the things I've gotten to do. But to be technical, I'm currently a planetary scientist by trade and formerly a spacecraft operations engineer. And so, planetary science and spacecraft operations are what I've done with my career, what I've dedicated myself to. And those are two just booming, exciting fields that go really hand in hand. Planetary science is, as the name suggests, the study of planetary bodies, systems, and other celestial objects, the solid bits in our final frontier, and we'll leave the black holes and galaxies and stuff to the astronomers. Planetary scientists explore our cosmos in a multitude of ways. I think the most exciting of which are the various spacecraft and satellites that we send to scour other worlds for us. And these complex, robotic behemoths of science and engineering are rarely fully autonomous. They need people to tell them what to do and how to operate. And that's the world of spacecraft operations. In my career, I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do both. I started my career in space as a master's student at Western Washington University, where I learned how the advanced camera systems on NASA's Perseverance rover could detect important minerals on Mars. And my successes there earned me a role on the other side as an operator. And for several years, I operated cameras on both the Curiosity and the Perseverance rovers, taking literally thousands of pictures of Mars and actually exploring the unknown, capturing some of our first glimpses of land that human eyes had never even seen before. And I love it. I absolutely love what I've done, what I've gotten to do, and what I continue to do. And exploring space every day, ultimately, has been a dream come true. But truth be told, for me at least, it wasn't necessarily a dream that came easy. So for me, I grew up as an only child in a single parent household for the majority of my life in this very odd little bubble sandwiched between Milwaukee's best and worst neighborhoods. And we didn't have much at all in those days. Sometimes we struggled quite a bit and kind of cobbled our existence together. But I was fortunate enough to have a mother that wouldn't let that stop me. And as a kid, right off the bat, like I had this just ridiculously powerful interest in science, like all forms of science. I collected rocks, bugs in jars, took apart electronics, consumed every space documentary like a sponge, and performed all sorts of experiments at home, most of which were encouraged, but sometimes not so much. There was a day I released several dozen crickets into our tiny apartment, and that is probably my mom's like top 10 least favorite days of her life. But I really wanted to see how fast and far they could move, and I got my answer and also got yelled at for it. But crickets aside, my mother really nurtured my curiosity in science as much as she could. Any books, toys, museum trips, events, anything related to science, if she could help it, she made sure I had, access to it. And so I bounced around from interest to interest, dream job to dream job, paleontologist, volcanologist, marine biologist, astrophysicist. But in the end, the glow in the dark stars and planets that we put all over my bedroom wall kind of won out. And I decided, I wanted to be a spaceman, whatever that meant to a little kid. But part of me, though, even as a kid, I couldn't really shake the specter of our situation. When I saw scientists on TV and in movies, they didn't look like they were ever once poor black kids. I didn't see myself represented in science. And so even as a little kid, I could feel that lack of representation, and I had a lot of lingering doubt because I didn't see my identity in the sciences very often. And I started to feel like it was a place that I couldn't belong. And there were kind of two major events that really put me on the right path towards the career I have now, one after the other, that just played a huge role. And the first, which has continued to stick with me my entire life, is one day my mom sat me down and just gave me this massive truth about our life and about my potential. And she kind of turned our greatest hardship into our greatest source of strength. And so I wish I remember when this was. I think I was in middle school. And my mom was between jobs at that time. She's doing everything she could, but it was hard to keep everything patched together. And even as a child, I could see and understand that. And she called me into her room and she sat me down. And I remember she held up two pennies. And I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? Two little shiny copper discs. And she holds them up. And my mom is very honest and will just tell you the situation. And she lets me know, sweetheart, this is all we have right now. This is it. Two pennies. And I can't remember the exact words she used after that, but she also told me that it wouldn't be that way for long. That come hell or high water, we would find a way, and that this current reality could not and would not define my future potential. If I wanted to work in space, this would not stop me. And that truth was, the first major step in my journey, helping me, unlock the belief that I could reach the stars, I could work in space. And she taught me that enduring truth that I hope that I can leave you with, that being you at your lowest and most uncertain point, it doesn't place any defining limitations on who you are and who you could be. But eventually, I hit a wall again. Teenagers aren't, so good at sticking with the program. And so high school broke me down a bit, and I came out of it with more of the same doubt, and that I wasn't cut out to be a scientist. I wasn't cut out for the space industry. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't lucky enough. Space wasn't for people that looked like me. I told myself it was a childish dream. I told myself all of that. And so I became a political science major, a meritable choice. But it was something at the time I had no enthusiasm about at all, none. Until, once again, my mother's help put me back on the path. And so the Curiosity rover launched November 26th in 2011. It was a Saturday morning. I was 19. I was hungover, and I forgot about it. And my mom is banging on my door to wake me up, screaming, that NASA thing you were talking about. It's on. It's happening. And so I groaned and kind of complained and dragged myself up and got to my computer. And I turned on the launch coverage. And that was it. Seeing that history made and that rocket launch, the outpouring of emotions from the engineers, the screams of accomplishment, and especially the sheer diversity of the incredible minds that worked on that mission, something I didn't expect. It relit that fire in me. It was one of the most inspiring moments of my life. And so that very moment, I gave myself two goals that I specifically remember. I told myself, as that rover launched, as I watched that rocket go up, I told myself that I'm going to work on that mission. That right there, I'm going to work on it. And then when the next one launches, I'm going to be there. And I told myself I would never doubt whether or not that was possible again. And after years of difficult coursework, undergraduate research, graduate school, conferences, a lot of just dedication to that dream, I accomplished one of those goals. For years, I was an operator on that very same Curiosity rover I watched launch. I did that. And if not for COVID, I would have hit goal number 2. I would have been jumping for joy as the Perseverance rover launched, knowing that I was a part of it all. But COVID, severely limited the attendance at that event, even for mission team members, unfortunately. Maybe next time. But I'm filled with just so much joy to be able to talk to you all about this today. The things I've gotten to do, my story, my line of work. There's really nothing like this career, this field. I've helped map and image another planet using some of the most sophisticated space hardware ever built. I've worked in clean rooms, sitting at a table next to that hardware, next to those cameras that are going to be strapped to a big old SUV-sized robot and be sent to Mars, helping calibrate them. And I've collaborated with incredible scientists all over the world and gotten to make my own contribution to humanity, peeling back the curtain on what's really out there in our final frontier. And it's been spectacular. And if any of that resonates with you, I honestly, seriously encourage you to explore the possibility of a career in space. I think it is immensely more possible now than it was years, decades ago, because the space industry is expanding at such an incredible rate. I can't speak for every aspect of the industry, but I can tell you that planetary science and spacecraft operations, the kinds of amazing and fulfilling work that I've gotten to do, they're absolutely exploding. Studying other bodies in our solar system, if this is something that's interesting to you, it takes a whole mountain of science. I'm a geologist by education. That is my field. That is what I do. I'm a rock guy. I look at rocks. But planetary science includes physicists, chemists, astrobiologists, which is a new and booming field thinking about if life formed on Mars or other places, what would it look like? What would it need? How would it thrive? How would it have ended? How would it still exist, possibly, potentially? There's programmers, there's engineers, there's room for every discipline in planetary science, truly. And so, if you are interested in chemistry or physics or biology, there's a path to space for you just in those lanes. You don't have to be a rock guy like me. Not everybody is interested in rocks. And so, there's so much room. And with the increased technology and interest, our endeavors in space are expanding just exponentially. Currently, NASA and the European Space Agency have major missions planned to Mars, Venus, Jupiter's moon Europa, asteroids. There's even the Dragonfly mission, the wildest and coolest thing I've ever heard of, which is this massive flying science drone that's going to be sent to Saturn's moon Titan and explore that planet with its giant lakes and rivers of liquid hydrocarbons. Just a completely alien and spectacular world. And we decided, we're going to send a big old drone there and fly it around. There's so much happening that you can be a part of, both from the science side and on the other side of the coin. When we do these incredible missions, like I said before, to these other worlds, someone needs to make everything go. Everything launched in space needs to be operated and controlled. Not all of it is fully autonomous. And so the more exploration there is, the more of these spacecrafts, the more there is a need for capable operators. And operators are just fantastic, brilliant, creative people. These are the conductors of our space missions. They issue commands to control hardware, to do tasks, to collect data. They diagnose problems and maintain the health and safety of that hardware. They do so much. Everything you think a Mars rover needs to do, there's an operator behind that. And there's such a depth to that beyond what the general public sees that it is just this incredible orchestration of different people working together and controlling each individual part. It's such a fun job. During my time as an operator, I got to command three camera systems, Mastcam, Molly, and Marty on the Curiosity rover. And then on the Perseverance rover, I was the very first data management lead for a camera system called Mastcam Z, where I got to create and design a lot of the procedures for managing the data on board the computers that controlled the Mastcam Z cameras. And with that, I also got to play a really important and exciting role in getting the videos of the Ingenuity helicopter's first flights on Mars. We had to create a data handling method that had never been done before on any previous rover, and I got to spearhead that. And it was one of the most challenging and rewarding times of my life. I think operations work is truly challenging because you are commanding things on another world, scientific equipment that was specifically built for that purpose. You are commanding it in some of the most creative and never done before ways to bring this data to the scientists and bring this sense of exploration to humanity, and it's incredible. So if a career in space like this interests you, the first thing I got to say is just go for it. Narrow down what kind of science you want to do. Are you a biologist, a geologist, chemist, physicist? Do you want to be an engineer? What kind of engineer? You find your discipline, because like I said, there's room for everyone in space. I can think off the top of my head of several people I know well and work with that are geologists, physicists, chemists, engineers, mathematicians, just a variety of people. And once you find your niche, find your discipline, cater everything you do in your educational experience towards applying that goal or applying that discipline to space. Take relevant classes, find professors at your institutions that do space research. See if they have opportunities for you to contribute. A huge pro tip is that professors are burnt out and super busy. They love help. Track someone down and offer help. It is rare they'll say no, I have learned. Go to conferences, go to sessions about space, talk to anyone, make connections, consider grad school. And a big thing to think about for grad school, folks think about the institution, think about the person. Find a thesis advisor that does the work you want to do. That was my foot in the door. Western Washington University isn't one of these, well-known university names that everyone in the country knows, but there was an incredible professor there that was on the Mars rover teams on Curiosity and Perseverance, and she got to be my mentor. Meet them, talk with those people, explain, your interest, and talk about their work and your seriousness about getting involved, and they'll get you involved. She opened up all the doors for me to work on Mars rovers and to truly become a space scientist. So if you're considering grad school for this, consider that as well. And I would also say, absolutely above all, if you're interested in a career in space, which is a far out there thing and a hard thing to do, but I want to say above all, do not ever doubt that you belong here. Don't ever fall into that trap that I fell into for some years, you know. If my mom hadn't woken me up that morning when Curiosity launched, I'd probably be doing something else. You know, I have no idea what it'd be, but I'd be doing something entirely different and falsely convinced that the career I have now wasn't meant for me. If she hadn't woken me up that day and kind of pulled me out of that funk and that disbelief I didn't need to have. And so she taught me in that moment that I wasn't those two pennies that we used to have. I was so much more. And so I'd ask you the same, don't lose sight of that truth. Remember that no matter who you are, what your own two penny moments may have been, you know, that was just a launching pad. That was just rock bottom. And no matter what your launching pad is, your place is in the stars if you want to work in space. So I encourage you to get after it. Yeah, get hungry, identify what you want to do, and really go for it and apply that discipline to space. And know that the space industry is just massively booming, and there's room for absolutely everyone. And that's what I want to leave you with. And it's such an honor to talk to you today. I hope you're all having a fantastic conference, a fantastic time. I hope your lives are going great, school's going great. Just yeah, that's what I want to leave you with. And I hope you all have a great rest of your year.